digo, ese en medio de...
Call meeting to order. Roll call. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Chairman.
Mr. Milo Richel,
Not here yet. Not yet.
Mr. Jean Lindgren, Mr. Carlos Fernandez,
Here.
Mr. Rafael Miner,
Present.
Mr. J.D. Gonzalez,
Present.
Mr. Guillermo Tich,
Present.
Mr. Luis Hinojosa,
Here.
Mr. Rafael Dueñas,
Present.
Mr. Arturo Dominguez,
Here.
Mr. David Puig,
Here.
Mr. William Young, Mr. Gonzalo Prida,
Present.
Mr. Jerry Jason Hinojosa,
Present.
Mr. Gerardo Maldonado, non-voting members, Ms. Yolanda Malagón, Mr. Ricardo Cervantes, Mr. Eduardo Garza. We are going to move with item number 3, public citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments? Go ahead, Mr. Cigarra.
Yes, I only become aware of the situation, I don't know why, but all of a sudden it seems like this is starting to gain momentum. And actually, I thought that a couple of years, like, studies that were done from Texas A&M University and there were also, the Brokers Association and their opinions. And, it seems like when we weigh what the benefits.
Can you please come to the microphone? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Your name for the register, por favor, please.
Yeah, well, for anything, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. And I just want to let y'all know, I kind of got caught off base on this because I thought this deal was, a thing of the past. I remember reading everything about it, a couple of years ago where the A&M University, they did a professional study on it and, the benefits of having something in the South, just were not, they weren't validated.
Excuse
The
me, Chairman,
Brokers
your name
Association.
for the register, please.
The Brokers Association, way
Yeah,
back then.
I'm sorry to interrupt again. They want your name for the.
Oh, my name is Jorge
record.
Cigarroa. I'm a U.S. Customs broker for 32 years.
Thank you.
And, well, I know that the Customs Brokers Association was firmly against it, back in the day. The Motor Carriers Association was against it back in the day. And U.S. Customs, it's like a big, huge machine that just digests tons and tons of information, and it takes lots and lots of manpower, to move the amount of freight that we have here in Laredo. And more than anything, we as brokers have to work in harmony with CBP. And, we all just have to make sure that we make the right decisions. What I don't know, I don't know what the benefits are of having a bridge in South Laredo, and I'm all ears, and that's why I'm here at this meeting, because I want to hear, what everybody's opinion is. I'm all ears. I need to be educated. But, when I think about the past, the lessons that, everybody has to make good decisions. We all are here because of the decisions that we've made. We learn from our decisions. And I've seen what decisions in the past, how they've affected us. Way back then, we built the Colombia Bridge. And yes, thank God we have the Colombia Bridge. But was it the right decision? When you think about how far out it is, if we could have had it further in, how far out it is, they connected a loop to it and spent millions and millions and millions of dollars. And guess what? Boom, it crashed and burned. You know, I bought properties out there thinking that, oh, everything's going to develop. For years and years and years, there's nothing out there, and there still is nothing out there. But what is the benefit? You know, the benefit is something beautiful, is that we actually have a whole sector, which is the Mines Road, that extends from World Trade Bridge or I-35 all the way to Colombia. That's a sector. That's a beautiful sector. You know, there's an area right there, yes, that there's residential. And guess what? You know, we built World Trade Bridge there. And I saw the city flourish. I saw investment come in by the billions. I've seen the most beautiful warehouses I've ever seen. In fact, it doesn't fit in my head how these warehouses, as expensive as they are there. But guess what? People were willing to invest because that spot was a spot that was correct and proper for the future. I mean, nobody has an industrial area the way we do. We're blessed. So you put World Trade Bridge and look what we got. You put Colombia and look what we got. You know, I'm happy we have that bridge. But, you know, I know that our infrastructure is in the north. I know that we can promote Laredo to be one of the greatest ports there is in the United States, and we can compete against our biggest competitors, who is the Valley. Those guys have population. Those guys have representation in Washington. Those guys have access to a whole lot more things than we do, which means that we need to be careful. We need to make good decisions. You know, we can grow the whole Mines Road. That's right there near I-35. These trailers go down I-35 and the Border Patrol is set up to handle them. You know, the trailers go down 59 or they go down 359. They barely even have one lane to process these trailers. These trailers right now, I'm driving down to San Antonio, and I'm stuck behind trailers all day long. I'm like, this is congested. And that's a federal interstate highway. And I'm struggling with the amount of traffic that there is. Can you imagine in South Laredo having to come down the loop to get full of trailers? I mean, one accident, everything goes down the tubes. You know, I'm just, you know, after I let you all know, you know, how I feel, I really am going to see, maybe you all can sell me the idea and make the decision that is going to make Laredo powerful, that's going to give Laredo a future, that's going to keep us in business, that's going to make the carriers invest in Laredo, that's going to make all the international companies come to Laredo and build. You know, when somebody comes over here and they see the Killam Industrial Park and they see all these warehouses, people are impressed, including myself. You know, CBP, like I said, I was getting to the point that they're a big, giant machine. You know, it takes a lot of manpower, you know, to run that machine. And it's Customs and Border Protection, it's the EPA, it's a DOT, it's a USDA, it's the FDA, it's a Consumer Product Safety Commission, it's USDA marketing, and the list just goes on and on and on. It takes personnel to run these operations. And what are we thinking about? we're thinking about sending one piece of that personnel down to South Laredo, which is as far away as Ensenada or Catula. It'll take this long to get from the Mines Road to that area in South Laredo right now, as long as it takes to get from Laredo to Catula. If we had something on the north side, you'd have customs in world trade. You'd have customs somewhere in between there and in Colombia. You know, strategically, it works. You know, I can't see the federal government, you know, manning the customs area down in South Laredo. You know, there's not enough personnel. But we need to concentrate our resources into specific areas. You know, I heard a most beautiful example I ever heard yesterday. Somebody told me, "Oye, Jorge, what about Las Vegas?" I said, "What does Las Vegas have to do with the price eggs in China?" "Oh, Las Vegas, Jorge." And I said, "What's the deal?" He says, "Look, Las Vegas it's a concentrated area of nothing but the best casinos and the most expensive buildings and the nicest casinos in the world. You fly in there, you know what? You don't see a single house. Nothing. But you know what? You go there and you keep on going back because you say, they've got it. They figured it out there. You know, they've got the whole city comes out of their houses and they go to a central area and they work. And guess what? That idea works so well that it's the most awesome place in the world. One of the nicest places in the United States. But why? Because they concentrated everything in an area where all the people, no matter where they are, they can come there and work. They're not going, you know, things aren't split up over there. You see casinos that are 10 miles from the area and you see tumbleweeds. But you get in the core area and I guess it's just a perfect example of what you can do when you concentrate your resources. Do not dilute your resources. Concentrate them. Make Laredo the best port there is. You know, I have not heard, you know, I'm ready to hear the opinions from, you know, the customs brokers and Laredo motor carriers. You know, I know it's only been 10 days, but I think as a customs broker, we need to get a meeting and see how the brokers stand. Because the truth is, we all need to work in harmony. Who works these bridges? It's the carriers, it's the customs brokers, it's the freight forwarders, and it's CBP. Those are the people who are inside the space shuttle that drives our trade. Those are them. Nobody else. Everybody else has their opinions, but they're on the outside looking in. We are in the inside in the driver's seat. So those entities are the entities that really need to weigh onto, you know, what decision we should make. You know, I would love to see, you know, I'm figuring out, I said, how did this come to be? I'm saying, well, you know what, Jorge, there's been an area there in South Laredo they've been working for the last 10 years, but nobody's come up with an idea there in North Laredo. Is that the reason why it's going? Yeah, that's the reason why. Nobody's come up with anything in North Laredo. By God, we need to get Texas A&M to pick a spot, or we pick a spot and say, you know what, if we put our bridge right here, how's this going to affect our future versus if we have a bridge in South Laredo?
Mr. Cigarro, can we short the time because maybe
No,
we have
I'm finished.
more public comments and
Oh,
I want to
absolutely.
You know,
restrict.
If I may, just to follow the order of sequence, I think this is just the guidelines for the public comments where you have to submit paper and you got 3 minutes to speak. but then the comments will be after the agenda starts. So I think you're a little bit ahead of us because
Okay.
we haven't even discussed
No.
what we're doing right now. And then on top of that, I'd like to also acknowledge the meeting chair that has also attended, so we can get him on attendance because he showed up after the attendance, so then we can go and move forward, so.
Well, I appreciate y'all giving me an opportunity to talk, and I apologize. I did the first time I've ever been to one of these meetings, and I
Thank
just
you
got
for
on a
sharing
roll.
input. They're fun. You're welcome to come every month.
Yeah, we need that passion, Mr. Cigarroa.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We are, welcome, Mr. Richard. Approval for, we are going to move to item number 4, approval of the minutes.
Make a
I'm
motion.
gon- Thank you, motion by Mr. Gonzalez, second by Mr. Teach. Any discussions on the minutes?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to clarify, are you gonna take public comments after you hear the presentation? Is that what I heard?
Whenever the agenda starts, because we have not even got to the agenda items
Yes.
yet, so. And then you have to submit a card, I think, before it's 6. I don't know how they're gonna do it.
So
Yeah, we don't
if-
have cards for,
If you submitted a public comment, on your card, you could speak before, or if not, there wasn't cards available? Be out there for sure, okay, so.
so I think in this meeting, we should open to the public comments and then, take care of the public comments.
Yeah, once the agenda starts, so.
Madam Chairman, Chairperson, I just want to make sure to make it very clear that I know myself or the board members have not made a decision on whether they're for or against. So I just want to make it clear of the opinion that we have not brought up the decision as far as that we're moving forward to, going with the new bridge in South Laredo. This has just come up and it's going through a study, I believe, right now, but it hasn't been brought up to us to vote on the matter.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. Quick.
All those in favor?
Any discussions on the minutes? Votes in favor?
Aye.
Votes against? Motion carries. Now we are moving for items for discussions. We have a presentation by S&B Infrastructure with possible action on the Laredo Bridge System Master Plan and any other matters incident thereto. I will.
The agenda has it differently, sorry.
Oh,
Good. The agenda has it the same.
Yeah, the public comment one.
yeah.
No, that's the request for public comments. They have to go back to what the agenda items was.
No, that's,
Roman numero, good evening, Port of Entry Committee members, Yvette Limon, Bridge Director, Committee Liaison. Roman numeral 3 is
It's the
the
public comments.
public comment section where anybody can provide a comment. And then, once we're done with receiving public comments, then we'll go and approve the minutes and item for discussion. And then the SMB Infrastructure will make the presentation.
so we
So
don't
you did 3
discuss
minutes,
agenda.
all right?
They have a limit of, yes, 3 minutes for their public comment input.
Yeah, we don't discuss it with them,
Right.
for that, we just hear the comments and
Right.
when everybody's finished.
Right.
And then they could also put a card to talk and discuss in the actual item.
Any item.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, the cards. So, yes.
So for the item number 3, we didn't have any cards for public comments, but that's why I asked the members to accept the public comments without the card. Can I have a motion to accept the comments?
And to hold for the 3.
And I will please ask to stick to 3 minutes. Oh, thank you. Mr. Ceballos, can you take the microphone and introduce yourself?
Thank you, and I didn't mean to interject, I just thought we was following the agenda. Jose Ceballos for the record, so I understand the role of this committee is an advisory, so you haven't even heard the presentation, right? So you may not even have a position on what you're gonna hear tonight, which is really where I'm at. I represent the Embarcadero Industrial Park, which is off of the World Trade Corridor. We have a lot of land there. We have about 1.5 million square feet of warehouse space. So I'm very interested in the presentation that's going to be heard today. one thing that I wanted to ask in general, I think for anybody that's considering the prioritization, the scheduling of what's being proposed under this plan, it's a plan, right? So obviously some plans are actionable, some plans go on a shelf. But what we're doing today, or what you're doing, is actually probably having to deliberate over whether you want to accept the prioritization or the plan. And so forth. I think City Council will do the same. They'll be able to gauge whether they agree with the timelines, with the priorities, with the areas that are being looked at. So for us, in terms of our analysis, as far as Farias development goes, we're just beginning to look at this document. So the document is 400 pages. I spent a few hours over the last several days evaluating it. I still haven't finished looking at the analytics of it, the scoring of it. I've looked at what the consultants feel are their stakeholder comments. I think there's some gaps there. There's some parties that I think need to be part of the conversation, including GSA, including some of us on the warehousing side. Preliminary, those are some of my comments. Obviously, the white elephant in the room is a 4-5 bridge. Some of us may or may not have a position on it, and the position really depends on what some of you will gauge as the next step moving forward. You may adopt it in full, you may make your comments. I've been on the other side, with other committees that the city has where you're sitting, and the job's never easy when you're having to prioritize and make decisions. But what's important is to provide your stakeholders enough time to do their analysis. And I know that's not necessarily up to this board, but I think each of you would want to do that. Print the sheets that I think are important to you, review them, discuss them with your stakeholders, in this case, our tenants, right? We would want to have a conversation with them over what they see as their impact, the impact of their growth. I agree, I completely agree with the gentleman that was up here earlier or before me. We've got to grow our powerhouse. We're a powerhouse in South Texas and in the country in trade. We've got to align ourselves as best as we can. We're all not going to please everybody, right? But I think developing a plan that brings our city and unites our city to move ahead and move forward. Do we have traffic issues off of Mines Road? We do. Do we have a lot of infrastructure in place? We do. Do we have plans for World Trade Bridge that need to be finalized? We do. And so preliminarily for me, in terms of looking at this 400-page report, is that we need to complete the plans, execute the plans that are on the table for World Trade Bridge, and then look at other things that I think are going to be complementary to us really maximizing our powerhouse position globally and not just the States. But those are my comments to you. I know you haven't, I don't know if all of you have already printed this or even it's very difficult to review it when you're looking at it on a PDF. I found it easier to just print it and make your notes. A lot of very good information. I have a lot of questions, and I'm sure you're going to have the same. We're here to help. Anything we can do to support you all's advisory effort, we're happy to do it. And that's, anything that we can do with the group that's working towards moving Laredo ahead and put it in the best place, we're going to support that as well. So thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate your attention.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, for the record, my name is Jerry Schwebel, members of the committee. I'm here as a resource to you all. Please look at me as a resource, or to anyone who's interested in hearing what I, as a representative of the Border Trade Advisory Committee, that was involved in one of the studies that I think was used as a source for the study that you will be referring on the agenda item. So as a representative of ETAG, I'd like you to know that I'm here as a resource. Ask any questions you may have as to what an original study, that was a 2-year study, was done, which many of you in this room were involved in the dialogue and the stakeholder engagement. So please, I'm here at your service. I'll be glad to share any information, answer any questions you may have about the border, the Texas-Mexico border transportation master plan, which is referred to in the item that will be presented by the S&B engineers, okay? So that's what we're for, and I'm glad to share any information you have. And I'll be talking about the total stakeholder engagement, what the process was during the course of the last 2 years, of some of the projects that are being discussed, including the project for a South Bridge, expansion of the World Trade Bridge, and a number of others, including Hachal Road and Vallecillo Road. So I hope that I can contribute and help those that perhaps need more information. We'll be here to ask any questions you may have. And I've added the items on the agenda to be included to comment during that item 1 and item number 2. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
We are moving on with the presentation. We don't have any more public comments?
Gracias.
Hello, good evening. My name is Melissa Cigarroa, and I am the board president for the Rio Grande International Study Center. And Trisha Cortez serves as the executive director of this organization. We are concerned with environmental impacts to our city and the quick track that this project seems to be on. So as a board, we would encourage there be consideration for the environmental impacts. In the brief materials that we were offered, we've seen no environmental impact study. And we think for the city of Laredo, and especially considering the history of the development in the northern part of the city and how environmental considerations didn't play a big role at the outset of that development, that we learn those lessons and that we make sure that we, as these other gentlemen were saying, as we develop this to be a powerhouse for the trading industry, that we make those considerations vital and a part of the conversation when you're talking about new infrastructure development. Now the city is taking on mitigating a lot of the issues that have come up with having infrastructure developed next to residential areas. We know that South Laredo has seen tremendous growth in residential areas in the last few years. That growth seems to have occurred outside of the one study, the traffic study that was presented in the materials for this new project. And so it is even that much more important to include a new environmental impact study to take that factor into consideration, all of the residential neighborhoods that traffic from that new proposed location would incur. We would like to serve also as a resource to talk about environmental impacts. We're located here at the Laredo College and would be happy to have conversations with anyone that would need to. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments? Thank you. Moving on with the presentation from S&B Infrastructure.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Baltasar Avila. I am with SMB Infrastructure. I'm an engineer. And today, to give the presentation, I have Mr. Daniel De Luna. He is also with SMB. So we're going to give you a presentation on the Laredo International Bridge Master System Master Plan. What are the objectives of this study? The objectives was to develop the City of Laredo International Bridge Master Plan, to determine current and projected traffic trends, including congestion levels and wait times for the Laredo International Bridge System. This consists of the Laredo Colombia Solidarity Bridge, the World Trade Bridge, the Gateway to the Americas Bridge, and the Juarez Lincoln Bridge. We also need to address existing and future deficiencies and congestion to efficiently process pedestrian, non-commercial, and commercial traffic traveling to and from Mexico and the U.S. And we also going to propose and evaluate alternatives to streamline and increase the throughput individually and collectively as a system. For that, we had to do a lot of data collection. The traffic model, it was existing data review, the traffic counts on the U.S. and the Mexico side, crossing data. We also looked at socioeconomic data reviews, border demand forecast. We looked at the Laredo Bridge system, commercial vehicle forecast, passenger vehicle forecast, pedestrians, and we developed a travel demand model. We updated the Laredo US travel demand model. We created the Nuevo Laredo, Mexico travel demand model, created a binational assignment model. We did the model calibration, developed the port of entry operation simulation, and scenario analysis for a forecast of 20 years. Development of alternatives. To develop the alternatives, this is the areas of analysis were the connectivity improvements to the railway network. We also looked at operational changes, improvements at the port of entries, technology improvements at the international bridges, on-site improvements of the port of entries, and a proposed construction of Bridge 45. We identified 80-plus projects in Laredo-Webb County. This included the Laredo MPO Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the Webb County Regional Mobility Annual Project Report, and a binational presentation, and TxDOT Border Master Plan. So those are the studies that we looked at. How did we develop these alternatives? Part of the process was to have some stakeholder outreach. We met with the City of Laredo, Laredo MPO, CBP Field Operations, CBP Port Directors, U.S. Custom Brokers, Mexican Custom Brokers, the Alpha Group, the Webb County City of Laredo RMA, Laredo Motor Carriers Associations, and Texas Laredo District. And now to present the list of alternatives, I'm going to pass it to Mr. Daniel De Luna.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel De Luna. I'm a professional engineer and I work with SMBF Construction. The list of alternatives, we came up with 19 alternatives. They're A through S, and I will go through each slide independently, but this is the list. Alternative A is at the World Trade Bridge. It is a new bridge span. We're proposing it to be on the south side of the existing span, connecting both Mexico to the U.S. at both facilities. The existing facility consists of 15 primary expansion booths, 3 fast lanes, 8 regular bridge lanes, which 7 regular and 1 is a fast lane, northbound. The proposed project would be at that new bridge with 8 northbound lanes, and on the existing bridge, we would convert 2 additional lanes to go southbound, and 2 of them remain as 2 northbound fast lanes. The conceptual cost is $15.9 million.
Can you repeat the amount?
Yes, sir. It's $15,927,346.
You name it, as conceptual cost, is that just the planning, the construction, the design? And is that just the US side, or is that Mexico and US, or what, can you elaborate a little bit on the
Yes,
cost?
sir. This is the construction cost of today's dollars for the whole facility. No planning, no PS&E, just
Just construction cost?
Yes, sir.
And that's only halfway to the US, or the whole,
The whole thing, from Mexico to US.
Mexico and the US part?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Alternative B is also at the World Trade Bridge. Consists of adding 2 additional fast lanes. Existing, right now, we have 3 fast lanes to be converted to regular lanes going through the GSA facility. They are located within the primary regular inspection lanes. In construction right now, the city has 4 fast lanes being constructed going through 2022, I believe. The proposed project will add 2 additional fast lanes for a total of 6 fast lanes. The estimate is at $4,600,000 approximately. All of these dollars are for the construction of the facility, of the project.
But this is not bidded out yet. This is from your costs that you came up with in today's prices.
Yes, sir. These are for the 2 additional, in addition to the 4. Well, I believe there's 2 being constructed right now, 2 existing. There's 3 existing, right? And then they'll be moved over to the new facility, which is already in our construction. And this estimate is for the 2 additional fast lanes adjacent to that location.
I believe what Mr. Puig was asking is, you don't have it bid out, this is just your estimates from previous projects from stats on what material costs. There's no actual bids
That
This
is
is
correct,
what it
because this is just, based on the average unit prices of it.
from 2021 or pretty much average 2022, 2021?
The estimates I developed, the COVID, came in, so I'm trying to think, 2020,
Okay.
2021, basically. Yes.
So technically, you are reflecting in this amount the new increase that we have in materials and all the increase that we have on the cost for the materials?
Yes, they are based on the current prices, in the market today,
Okay.
for this year, yes. Well, as of, several months, a
I mean,
month.
we did it in June, that could change. I mean, it's
June this
changed
year.
dramatically. This was done in June.
Okay.
And the
June
study,
of this year?
it's also this year or it's the back on the 2008?
In this year,
This year.
yes, ma'am.
Una pregunta. Sí la puedo hacer en español,
Ok,
¿verdad? En la lámina anterior tengo una pregunta. Alcanzo a ver el proyecto de más líneas en el puente, pero quiero pensar que el proyecto incluye un número proporcional de casetas, a lo que le llamamos módulos, como igualmente espacio ya en la aduana de revisión, los módulos de salida y continuar con la infraestructura hasta conectar al 35, porque sería aparentemente innecesario hacer solamente las líneas arriba del puente. ¿Sí incluye todo lo demás?
Esta opción incluye nada más los carriles en el puente. No incluye, la otra alternativa incluye la expansión. Si te mueves a la alternativa B, esa incluye la expansión de carriles.
Yo creo ahorita lo que faltan son más módulos, más espacio. Carriles no tenemos ahí el
Eso
problema.
es lo que enseña la alternativa B o la C.
La C,
Porque la ve.
Ahorita la voy a comentar.
thank you. Alternative C is also at the World Trade Bridge. It consists of, the entry primary inspection lanes expansion. The existing project right now, the existing facility, has 15 regular lanes, which includes 3 fast lanes to be converted to regular lanes, and 4 fast lanes being constructed in this year right now. The proposed project is to widen the roadway entry into the facility by 2 lanes, adding 3 primary inspection booths and 2 secondary inspections. The conceptual cost is $5.3 million approximately. This is only on the US side.
That's just, can you leave it on for a second?
Yes, sir.
Widen 2 lanes at 3 presents.
One second. No tienes el password, todos estamos cerrados. Council. Pero council only?
If we can see this presentation here?
Yes.
Yeah, we are seeing it in our screen.
Thank you, Jason. Sorry. One point I want to get into discussion is that we should analyze the major impacts on each of the projects, because we're just like telling like the general information and not discussing the impacts in which the recommended the first, second, third, and options that are made on the analysis. So please, can you add that information when you talk about each of the different options?
We're gonna discuss that at the end of the presentation, some of the impacts, some of the variables, or some of the results, the findings.
That's right, because
We're gonna do the findings. This is just a presentation of the alternatives, and then we're gonna present the findings based on the traffic model. Because the traffic model is incorporating all these projects, and now is gonna run through each alternative, and it's gonna give us an output. It's gonna tell us, okay, what is the waiting time? What is the crossing time? And that's the information I think that. we're gonna-
that's right. But if you're like telling like for an introduction, and if we move on, and then we won't know which option was handled the number 1 and number 2, we can get like confused. That's my point.
I didn't follow.
if I may, at the end of this presentation of the, just a not
Just like
discussion,
a small resume, and then we can discuss what we were talking about, but
we would have to move to the end of the presentation.
At the end of the presentation, we have the ranking of all the alternatives. Is that the question?
The
We have
impacts.
right.
Okay, so we can,
Then we'll review them again at the end?
yes.
Yes, not all 19. Only
The top three, the top five, the top 10?
On this one here, we wanted to concentrate on the port of entries of the commercial bridges.
Okay.
Discuss at the end, on the summary. If we have to go into the report, because the report is an extensive report, and we want it to be, not make a long presentation, we can discuss any question you may have, we can go into the report and put it on the screen.
So at the end, we will go into detail on 7 of the 19.
We'll go, yes.
Oh, let's keep moving so we can
Yes.
maximize the time.
Thank you. Alternative B is on the Mines Road, or otherwise known as FM 1472. The existing description is a 4-lane, it's approximately a 4-lane divided urban roadway from I-35 to 255. And this project will be to convert it into 6-lane freeway facility with an estimated conceptual cost of almost $1.1 billion, only between I-35 and FM 255.
1.1 billion?
1.1 billion.
I'm just putting the master plan for them so they can see it. You can. If you want to see the presentation. You could continue. Sure, Mike.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we can keep going.
Okay, thank you. Alternative E is a direct connection from the World Trade Bridge to Killam Industrial Boulevard. And it's from I-69 to I-35 via the existing DC-1 connector, constructing an exit to the Tres X underpass. This estimate is at $13.6 million. Alternative F, at the Juarez Lincoln International Bridge, is the passenger vehicle inspection extension of the inspection of the booths themselves to double booths, to stack them up twice. The first or the second, the second one, that would allow for traffic to move into 2 inspections at a time. This estimate is at $500,000. Alternative G, permanently moving empty trucks to the Colombia Solidarity Port of Entry, except for the CTPAT vehicles, commercial vehicles. There's no conceptual cost to it since it's just moving the process. Alternative H is also at the Colombia.
One thing, there's an alternative for the last project on the G, that it says the alternative, it's not a viable solution and relieving congestion to the World Trade Bridge. So I want to make a note on that, and it clearly says that this solution won't bring any solution to the congestion to the World Trade Bridge.
Like, you mentioned that the empties by Colombia, it's not.
Yeah,
within
that's
the
what it says
traffic?
here, yeah. The alternative decreases volume through output significantly.
But you don't have the actual numbers for World Trade Bridge right now to state that, right? Because the numbers says another thing.
Not in this presentation.
But by moving the empty trucks to Colombia, there is I guess there's there's a benefit, or there's a reduction of congestion on World Trade.
Yep.
And that is shown on the
study.
on the results. So there is a benefit, and I mean it's helping both. I mean, it's better utilizing Colombia, and it's helping also World Trade Bridge. But we can discuss that, at the end. as far as the overall.
Thank you.
Chairman, motion to extend the meeting for now 30 minutes.
I have a motion to extend the meeting 30 minutes.
Second.
Luis, I think it
Second
goes
by
to 8, no?
Mr.
You have it to 8.
Second.
Until when?
You have it 6 to 8.
To 7:30 right now, I believe, right?
7:30?
No, what, until what time did you agenda it, Mr. Wonder? 6 to 8, right? Original 6 to 8, yes.
Carry on.
This next, I apologize for mispelled. I just did not finish my responsibility
Yeah, I'm
to
sorry.
correct myself. So that is Colombia Solidarity Bridge, project at alternative H. The proposal is to have the overweight and oversized, have an oversized corridor and implement a daily permit program. This also doesn't have to cost, the process or that movement will be handled through that facility. Alternative I is a safety improvement, which is adding inside and outside shoulders to the Mexican Highway number 2 between the World Trade Bridge and the Colombia Solidarity Bridge. Conceptual cost for this project is $20.9 million. Alternative J is a new La Gloria Colombia Highway with a Super 2 design. The estimated cost is $220.8 million. Alternative K is the Laredo Outer Loop, a new alignment. Conceptual cost is $418 million. Alternative L is expanding the Mines Road all the way to Eagle Pass through a Super 2 design. This project has limited access to a 2-lane rural highway and connects City of Eagle Pass to Camino Solidario International Bridge through the Mines Road, Dolores Boulevard intersection, with a cost of approximately $268.4 million. Alternative M is by a CO extension from IH 35 to US 59 and ending at State Highway 359 for a cost of $147.8 million. Alternative N is at the Gateways to America's Bridge, the expansion of the sidewalk. This estimate is at $200,000. Alternative O is the Juarez-Lincoln International Bridge, consists of a traffic study and intersection improvements for a conceptual cost of $500,000. Alternative P, improving Las Tiendas Road, or FM 3338, to a 5-lane divided highway with a conceptual cost of $30.8 million. The limits are for its entirety, from Mines Road all the way to 255. Alternative Q is a new international bridge, 4-5, connecting to State Loop 20. The conceptual cost is $360.8 million. Alternative R is a new international bridge 4-5, but connecting to the Laredo Outer Loop. That conceptual cost is $726.8 million. Alternative S is at the Gateway to America's International Bridge, which would convert the bridge to a pedestrian-only crossing, no vehicles. There's no cost involved. Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Avila for the evaluation alternatives, or do I continue? Okay, I apologize. For the evaluation alternatives, we looked at the three strategic planning groups, which are the ports of entry, the U.S. corridors, and the Mexican corridors. The criteria used were the benefit, such as waiting time, investment cost, agency support, and technical process. Ranking by overall score is the analysis considered the benefits, the cost, and the support of each alternative. Again, the three groups are the port of entries, the U.S. corridor, and the Mexican corridor. The top two best scoring alternatives are the fast lane expansion on the World Trade Bridge with a score of 75.7, and the entry lanes improvement expanding existing capacity of the World Trade Bridge with a score of 72.7.
How do you determine the scores?
We use a matrix that took into account those variables that we mentioned, and we run we use a matrix using that.
So it's all the numbers that you guys provided, it's not, you didn't go outside resources or anything?
Including all the traffic model, and including the right-of-way, the cost, the agency, everything included to that matrix.
Isn't that the MPO ranking?
No. We developed that matrix.
So it's internal with you guys?
And just for the record, this is not your project's recommendation on order that we do, that the Laredo does these events. You're just stating the score that you receive for your matrix.
This is a guide, this is a guide that is giving you the ranking based on congestion, waiting time, crossing time, all of those factors are included in there, so this is giving you that.
But individually for each score, you're not stating that the importance of you didn't take into account the importance of what we do for the Laredo commercial, Laredo traffic for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You're not saying this is what you gotta do in this order. You're just stating the score,
Well,
correct?
the traffic model included the network of projects.
Yes.
Everything in Laredo, everything that Texas is doing, the city, Vallecillo, any proposed roadway within the next 4 years, it's included in this model. So when you run the model, then the alternative is run against this model, the whole network. Everything is there. So that's giving you the score.
Running simulations on the multiple projects to see which one will alleviate congestion the most.
Yes, correct.
That's what it's. So each alternative is run through the simulation.
So you created a database and then put a formula and these are the results on your study?
Yes.
When you said traffic model, you consider the regular traffic, cargo traffic?
Everything is included.
All the traffic.
Because it just get my attention that you have the World Trade expansion all the way to the bottom, since it was number 8. I mean, it was top priority, and traffic, we already have the Mines Road with a lot of traffic, and now we are moving traffic to the south side. And the new bridge, it's gonna take longer in years to be built and having a working bridge instead of the expansion, and it's more expensive, the new bridge, than the expansion, and the expansion went all the way to the bottom.
What's happening is this, the model is giving us the results based on congestion.
Mm-hmm.
So what the model is saying right now is World Trade, that's where we have the problem. Congestion is at World Trade. If you do these improvements, if you do B and C, it's gonna help. It's gonna help, but by this time, in 9 years from today, it's gonna be congested. So you need to do, that was part of the study. Study the network, and based on congestion now, we need to recommend, you need to do another crossing. Because if you don't do anything, or you do some improvements, the study shows that you're gonna have crossing times of 1.5 hours, 2 hours, because it's gonna be congested on World Trade. And the new span is $16 million.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that span, and if we run the model, if you look at the numbers on let me move to that area so you can see it.
Just to clarify, you said something right now. Just because they had it as A, it doesn't mean at one time they had it as a priority. It's just how they named the project.
Yeah,
no,
it's just
yes,
an alternative.
yes.
But I'm gonna move to that information that we have, the table that shows the results. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, if you see on the far right, we have World Trade, the port of entry. Those are the results based on a base year of 2030, and this is the base. This is the flow of cargo, of trucks coming through World Trade.
That's today.
You are considering
That will be in
10,000 trucks?
2030.
10,000 trucks in 2030?
That's in 2030.
I think that number is
Oh, no, but I
not,
think this is just one, this is northbound, right?
it's not even close to what we are
20,000.
handling right now. We already have 9,000 trucks. One
Mexico
north.
to, if you, okay, Mexico to the US is 10,066. Those are the trucks projected in 2030.
Ah, acá al revés, perdóname, okay. The first two, Monica, we're talking about
Yeah.
the 20,000.
They're talking about 20,000, 10 going north and 10 going south. We're already on 9,000 trucks a day. So from here all the way to 2030, they are just consider an increase of 1,000 trucks. I think that's very far from reality. 10,000 trucks in more than 10 years, I think the increase is gonna be higher.
What you're looking at, because I think studies that we've heard is that 5%, 3 to 5% per year.
Per year.
And you're looking at, I mean, this is not even 1%, less than 1%. It looks like the
We
numbers.
looked at the 3%. I think that's what we looked at, the 3% on the.
The numbers we have right now, and I guess everybody knows, it's 12 to 14,000 a day both ways.
No, you're talking 12, 14
Oh, yes,
kilometers.
so
Yeah.
7,000 regular, and we have days of 9,000 one way.
Yeah.
Is that the numbers?
One way, yes.
That's a reality right now, May COVID to now, and how everything jumped. So that's and that's around, so that gives us 16 to 18,000 a day.
So that's what they even.
And then in 10 years, you're just picking it up for 2,000.
Yeah,
So that's
the
our
numbers
discussion.
are not
We
realistic.
need to, well, we can look into this, and on Friday, we're gonna have our consultant, he's on our team, he's gonna be at the workshop, but we can clarify that. But these are the numbers. If we look at these numbers, then we're looking at the total waiting time of, as you can see, from Mexico to the US, 37.1 minutes to 38. If you see this alternative, there's not a lot of benefit because it's staying the same. If you look on 2040, and if you look at the waiting time, you're looking at 160 minutes to cross. And on the base case and on the alternative, 165 minutes to cross. So that's why the new bridge, this new bridge, as you mentioned, it kind of ranks it goes to the bottom on the ranking, because those factors are into play into the ranking. So that's why it goes to the bottom.
And this model is already considering the empties in Colombia? Because we lowered the crossing of time like for almost 3 hours.
Yes.
So are you considering the new numbers and the new crossing time that we have?
That
Because
is,
I don't know, Mr. Fernandez, do you have the crossing time that we have right now at Walker Bridge?
Sí, actualmente por el puente del comercio mundial.
Ajá. ¿Cuánto tarda en un transfer?
Mejoró mucho después de que se movieron los vacíos por Colombia. Debe ser un promedio de 30 minutos.
So, ahorita hacemos...
¿Pero del puente o de la fila?
No, de que hace la fila. O sea, de que llega a la fila a que sale al puente del módulo del lado americano.
¿Y eso es fast o normal?
El fast hace, no, es normal. Es normal.
Como menos de una hora.
Menos
si
de una
ven la
hora, sí.
gráfica enseña World Trade y lo compara con Colombia. Pues eso está considerando Colombia en todos
Aquí
los...
está 37 minutos, es el actual.
Está 37 minutos y 16 minutos.
Pero eso sería en el 2030. Y ahorita ya tenemos esos tiempos, en el 2021.
Y ese no está tomando en cuenta los 3 o 5% por año.
Bueno, o sea, sí tomamos en cuenta un crecimiento.
Un número,
¿verdad?
pero el número
A lo
no está.
mejor
Pero
los
te está diciendo
números
que ahorita
no están.
están en 20 minutos.
If I may, these impact numbers are for the bridges themselves.
Yes.
Just the bridges themselves,
Existing.
adding tolls for them to cross. The major impacts is once you do that is the aftermath going further north of what it's gonna do to the rest of the congestion and traffic. I know that our duty here is for the bridges themselves, but what's the impact that goes further when they cross and at a faster time? Because we're honestly not calculating, and I know it might be difficult in checking out each industrial park, but to get to those parks and all the congestion all at one time, that's gonna be another big study that maybe should be part of this somehow for some geographical area where the World Trade, where it comes out.
Right, and I think that there have been some studies, TTI did some studies for TxDOT, I know that the RMA did some other studies, including some of these projects, text, and we incorporated all of that. We looked at all of that information into that model. That's why we're saying that we need to improve. If you really want to do, better the situation on Mines Road, you have to do a super highway, and it's $1.1 billion. So those are the factors that you have to weigh.
There's some projected roads that were already supposed to be there several years ago, and they're not there for reasons that has happened, but the infrastructure needs to also be put. I mean, if we start talking about a bridge in South Laredo as well, you're gonna cross from 83 to 359 to 59 to get to where the warehouses are now, and timing and all those things. All those impacts really need to be studied very well.
Right, that will be part of like you said, a different study, a feasibility study for the location of the bridge. What we're doing is, we're looking at the numbers, at the existing numbers, and based on those numbers, as you just said, these numbers are very, low. If these numbers are high, we put it into the model, guess what? The waiting times, everything is gonna go higher, much higher. So the congestion is gonna be worse at World Trade, where we have the problem. We're seeing that that's where the problem
Well,
is.
there's no doubt that there needs to be some sort of alternative, and
So,
maybe adding booths.
so our recommendation to the city is saying, based on these traffic numbers, you need to start looking at another location, right?
Another location or an expansion?
Or expansion. And we have done the expansion, we have done the alternatives, and it helps if we let's go to alternative.
Before you change your slide, these numbers are with the expansion. You are presenting this was the result of the expansion.
This is the result, this number is the result of the option A, which means to build a new bridge structure, 8 lanes.
That's what was my question. Maybe I didn't explain myself good. If you're presenting me at this point that the waiting time with the expansion, consider that the expansion is done, it's 37 minutes, we already have that time without any expansion. I don't know if I'm clear on that.
Bueno, pero entiendo que si es en el 2030 va a incrementar el volumen.
No, pero we are seeing 10,000 trucks.
Le vas a meter 8 carriles. What they're saying is, they're expanding, so what they're saying on the first part, in the first next 10 years, the expansion of 8 new roads is gonna keep the same volume as today, because the same wait time. But in 20 years, it's gonna throw it up the roof. So that's what this is saying.
He said that this is the result in 2030.
Yes, in 10
Those
years.
are not the numbers
We're
today.
9 years away. So.
Yeah, but those numbers are not correct. So we cannot
but
have a
remember,
decision
they're expanding to eight more lanes. So that's what they're saying.
We're putting 8 more lanes, but we're not improving anything outside of the bridge, So they're gonna be sitting there, they're gonna be parked on the bridge. And that's why it's gonna take, it's not gonna decrease the
And
waiting time.
what would be better, to do an outer loop or to improve the exit of the bridge? And we are considered only northbound traffic to
This is considering,
decongest, or we are considering southbound
I
traffic?
think that the problem is coming north, that's just what we have.
I think the problem is going south because the traffic.
It is
you have
gonna be, I guess, both. I mean, if you look at the numbers on World Trade, on the alternatives, it's gonna be on both sides at one point, in 20 years from now.
Because I'm sorry, and correct me if I'm wrong, the traffic that we have in Mines is going south.
It's going to.
We're trying to alleviate the traffic that it's stuck, parked on the bridges right now on the 35, on the Mines Road, it's going south, it's not coming north.
We have northbound traffic too. That starts out of the bridge, it can't go anywhere.
Yeah, but it's not standing, I mean, it's moving, and we are not seeing the numbers going south.
The numbers
They're
going south are
considered
both.
going north.
No, there's both numbers here.
They're both here on this report going south.
One line per line,
And I know,
north, south.
and I've seen the truck traffic backed all the way to 35, when the system goes down in Mexico, that's what kind of
Yeah, but that's going south.
Yeah, that's going south,
The
but that's
congestion, if we want to alleviate the congestion in Mines and 35 and all the bridges, we have to consider going south, not going north, as you mentioned.
So the numbers will be updated for the Fridays. You know, instead of 10,000, you're gonna update it, and the table will show different models, right, different times.
These are our results of the traffic
Right,
model.
but when you plug in different numbers, the whole thing will change.
For our workshop on Friday,
We will have-
can you have a dynamic, because what's coming up here, you know, everybody's gonna be questioning the numbers, and we wouldn't like for it to be thrown off the table just because of technicality.
More
wrong number.
realistic numbers. That's what we're
Exactly,
talking
that's what
about.
we're talking about. Excuse me?
So instead of 10,000, if you put 30,000, how will this change?
I mean, even considering they've got conservative numbers here, if they were to increase, overall your congestion would increase, right?
Correct, yes.
So he's being real conservative with them, and if they increase them, the times are gonna increase.
Yeah.
What happens when you build these TDM models, because we do it with the MPO, is you take the network as is, and then you put the traffic that's there right now. And then you go, okay, well, let's go these scenarios, all these projects, you put them in line, and then you say, what does this do for you? Is this gonna reduce traffic? But they're only doing that moment because we haven't fixed the internal infrastructure, right? Our road, Mines Road. So they're just looking at points and places. We have to determine which one's gonna provide the most throughput, and then find out on the internal side, on the US side, what are we gonna do to alleviate that to get you to the warehousing district?
They're giving recommendations. That's what they're doing.
Exactly.
And they're giving a presentation. If we can hear it.
Sí, yo creo que no debemos de perder de vista que son recomendaciones, son proyecciones, son simulaciones. Y si nos ponemos a cuestionar ahorita cada una de ellas, a mí me gustaría más escuchar su proyecto completo y después, pues probablemente algunos de nosotros tengamos nuestras notas, ¿no?
De acuerdo.
Let's keep going.
So I guess going back to rankings.
Let's go to the red.
I think if I may,
Yes.
what I'm seeing in alternative A, in both the 2030 simulation and the 2040 simulation, is there's an actual increase in waiting time. No matter what the numbers are, there's a 1 to 2 to 3% increase in waiting time, which some could argue is counterintuitive. You're adding 8 lanes through a multiple span. But if that's what the data says, let's move on to the next option, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think if you add more lanes, you have to add more processing booths to make it. That's what.
So that's why this one is
that's
at
what
the
it's-
bottom. This one is at the absolute bottom of the
That's why this
priorities.
one ranked on the bottom. The other ones, if we go back to let me go back to the rankings.
We have to keep in mind that we have multiple options. It's not just one option that'll solve the problem. It'll be maybe a combination of options, and that's what we have to focus on.
It could be a combination. Mr. Lindbergh provided some comments that we are finalizing the combinations. The combination, we can combine B and C, which is the expansion of the facility and the fast lanes. And we can combine A, B, and C and say, okay, what is it that, we have done it, we're gonna have it ready by Friday. But we're looking at those numbers and it's very close. You don't see that much of a benefit having that additional 8 lanes versus having, the fast lane and the other one, and the expansion. So,
The one main thing is that the system has come to a top, so the throughput, that if you put more lanes, it will be the same, because the access and the end of the road, it's gonna be the same thing. So we need to take that in mind and see what other options we have to alleviate all the traffic, because if we put like more lanes, it will be just like a parking lot, and it will be held inside the system. So the system won't be faster, it will be the same, and it will cost a lot of money.
correct. That's exactly what we're looking
Yo
for.
refuerzo ese punto, estoy, pudiera decir, convencido de que si se hacen solamente los carriles en el puente, no hay ningún beneficio. Yo no veo que ahí es donde se detengan los tractores, los camiones. Donde se detienen es llegando a los módulos.
Sí.
Con los mismos carriles que hay, yo sugeriría que esa inversión se invierte en más módulos. Eso es y le abres más módulos a la entrada y se complica la salida. Habría que hacer un estudio completo para que el flujo llegue hasta el 35. Pero no veo que los 8 carriles puedan traer algún beneficio. Y pienso que es mucha la inversión que se podría utilizar mejor en módulos de entrada y de salida del puente.
Tal vez se podría hacer alguna combinación, pero eso también lo vamos a presentar en comentarios del señor Lindgren en el combinar. Déjenme mostrarles aquí está el ranking, ¿verdad? Del World Trade en orden de cómo está rankeado. El primero fue 2 additional fast lanes. Sorry for mixing Spanish and English.
It's okay.
That's fine.
The entry primary inspection lanes expansion and the new bridge span. And then Colombia, we have moving the empty trucks to Colombia and the proposed overweight quarter. Those are then Bridge 4-5, which is the new international bridge to Loop 20, and then the new international bridge to Laredo, the outer loop. So that we looked at B. Okay, this is alternative B. Let's look at this one. Let's look at the table the results, and let's look at these numbers. We'll, the conservative numbers that we have. If you look at the waiting time, if we do the fast lanes, it drops from 37 to 24 minutes. You see, that's and then on the throughput, there's an increase of 2.6%. The crossing time drops from 69 to 50 minutes. So there's some benefits. If you go to 2040, you're gonna see that the waiting time goes from 160 to 80 minutes. So you're starting to see that those numbers, in the future, they're gonna be going up. The crossing time is gonna be 249, and then the alternative is 142 minutes. And I wanna let's take a little bit further down. If you go to the queue length, if you look at the queue length, on the Mexican side, it's gonna go from 4.9 miles to 6 miles. So that's outside, I think that's beyond the connecting point to I guess, Mex 2.
Yeah.
Donde está Colombia, ¿verdad? Te pega el puente.
Bueno,
Entonces las líneas van a ser enormes. Y es lo que está enseñando Esto es en la alternativa B. Alternative C is the entry primary inspection lanes. Esta es ampliar los módulos, ampliar donde sales del puente, abrirlo más, 2 carriles para que entre más volumen. En the waiting time goes 37 to 22.7, drops. The throughput, yes, 4.6, muy cerquita. And the total crossing time, 69 to 47. So they're very similar, B and C, as far as the numbers, as far as the crossing time, waiting time, very similar on the results. On 2040, if you go down 2040, the waiting time is gonna be 58 if you do the improvements, and the crossing time goes to 119 minutes. So even though we're doing this improvements, you're gonna have some issues. You're starting to see the issues on based on the results.
Okay. And one of the main problems is the exit gate. I think that's really where the bottleneck is at. Ahí es donde está el congestionamiento en la salida. No tanto en la entrada, pero en la salida. Porque casi hacen la misma revisión que hacen en la entrada, en la salida. Entonces ahí es donde ya se está haciendo el weigh in motion scale para que puedan procesarlo más rápido, para que le pasen la información a TxDOT y puedan quitar el chute ese que tienen, que es un solo carril donde pasan todos los camiones que cruzan por el World Trade. Quitando ese chute, se abren a 4 carriles y se desfoga ahí. No sé si tienes contemplado.
Ahorita
ese
tenemos
simulacro en esto.
ese proyecto de TxDOT donde agregó ese carril adicional. Y ahorita está haciendo una ampliación TxDOT en lo que es el I-69. Ese carril se está contemplado en el modelo. Ya se incluyó esa expansión y ya está contemplado en el modelo
Creo que el B y el C es lo que vamos a ver en el punto 2. Está mezclado con los proyectos de ahorita, ¿no? El B y el C es lo que actualmente están trabajando.
El B y el C,
Alternativa B, said alternate B and C, is that what's currently being
Constructed.
constructed on the bridge right now?
Sí, lo que es el fast lane.
No, alternative B is adding fast lanes to what is being constructed today.
Ah, okay, so it's plus
Yes.
what's being constructed today.
Yes, sir. At the end
Sí.
of that, it'll be 6 fast lanes.
Oh, okay.
Yo creo que nos queda muy claro que hay dos tráficos. Uno para cruzar el puente y el otro fuera del puente. Lo que se ven son escandalosas las cifras, porque ustedes tienen una ruta de escape de Vallecillos hasta la 69. A mí me gustaría que lo hicieran por tramo. Vallecillos a la 35, Vallecillos a la 359. Porque no la van a construir de un tirón, ¿verdad? O sea, no se va a construir en 8 días. Pero lo que sí podemos caer en el problema es que empiecen a construirla toda. Y entonces nos tardemos más tiempo en construir ese destape, ese tramo, que es lo que nos ayudaría ahorita a desfogar las minas. Esos 8 carriles que son los que nos ayudarían a desfogar. Porque bien dice Carlos Fernández y Memo Tich, de nada nos sirve cruzar si no tenemos salida. Entonces, para mí la parte integral es la expansión del puente junto con la salida de Vallecillos, que es la más viable y la más corta y la que podría ser más pagable ahorita. Entonces, si lo hacemos en tramos, no suena tan mal. ¿Me explico? O sea, presentar todo el costo de un tirón, pues a lo mejor compararíamos proyectos distintos con costos distintos y no tendríamos una realidad. Me gustaría que los tramos se presupuestaran por etapas. Y igual las posibles etapas en las que serían la entrega de estas construcciones. Thank you.
Okay. Gracias. Ok, entonces ya vimos la alternativa C. ¿Dónde estoy, David? Ok, ya vimos la alternativa A. Básicamente déjame regresarme. Vamos a ver el ranking y pusimos lo de World Trade, ya lo vimos, ¿verdad? Cómo están las tres, y el ranking, como vamos a ver y como está en el reporte, las B y C son las que tienen mayor score, the best score. Colombia Solidarity Bridge, let me go to Colombia. This is moving the empty trucks to Colombia, and then, by moving the trucks, of course, is helping Colombia, better utilization, is helping World Trade because that takes away that traffic. So it's a recommendation that we did when we submitted this report. It was at the end of June, on July the 1st, and you probably know, the CBP had it adopted, or they have sent all the trucks to Colombia, except the CPTA.
As I mentioned before on this point, it clearly says that thus making this alternative is not a viable solution for relieving congestion at World Trade Bridge.
Yeah, we need to, is that in the report? Are you looking at the report?
You want to see the...
And also, on those type of recommendations.
I guess we'll have to, I guess what we have to say is, it helps. It really helps. It's really helping the operation at World Trade. We probably need to go back to that report and make that, that change. But we're clearly seeing that this move, which is controversial, or is something that we found when we met with the stakeholders, that is something that everybody is, it's, well, how can I say it? Not everybody is happy about going through the additional, the logistics, the cost, the time, and all that. But this is something that is helping the overall system. It's helping the bridge, the Laredo bridge system. And I think that's the important thing that we want to, the statement we want to make here.
There are some direct benefits, but in addition to that, there are some direct, not benefits because of the fact the costs that are being increased for other factors. So, but I mean, just to make that statement. So.
Another recommendation for the Friday meeting, I will say that we need to be very specific in saying what are we talking about, the northbound traffic or the southbound traffic, because this measure helps to alleviate the northbound traffic, and I think there's some issues on the south. So in order for us to see all the negative and the positive impact, we need to clarify, you are considering just north or south?
Okay, we'll be more, we'll make that,
Because sometimes we just can be lost on like, oh, this is improving the numbers coming northbound. Like right now we are seeing the northbound numbers, but we are not seeing the southbound numbers. The improvement on the
we have
southbound.
both. The traffic model, it was developed with both countries. I mean, it's Mexico, it's a binational model. It took into account on both sides.
Because right here in the table, you have only, most of us are trade people. We know what we are talking about, but when it's the city council people sitting down, probably they are gonna need more specific information saying
We
like.
will have
Dice
actual.
direction. Sí, dice make it USA, USA MX. It's fine, it's good, direction, it's good.
On the comments when they say that it's positive and negative, how they consider south or they consider both, just to state that for the people that it's sitting on the, not on the numbers, I'm sorry, not on the numbers, just on the comments.
So far, what I've observed is all of the southbound US-Mexico numbers are minimal, 1-2%. Is there any reason why, and you don't have to answer, maybe consider changing it for Friday, but all of the other options we looked at so far, the first snapshot in time that we looked at was 2030 at the top half of the document and 2040 at the bottom. This particular one is focusing on 2025. You may want to consider making those consistent with the other options.
We'll discuss it with, we'll have something on Friday, I'll discuss with the traffic guys. We can do that.
All right, thank you.
We will consider that, thank you. The other one was to move this is an alternative to move the overweight, oversized to Colombia also. It also to help. This is just an alternative that we wanna.
If I may, and some others may be more experts in this matter, but I understand the valley does have an overweight, oversized corridor, and it might put us at a disadvantage, an X factor, if you will, if we don't do this compared to our competition in the valley. Especially as we move into more avocados and fruits and vegetables. A lot of times the trucks, they'll weigh out before they cube out, and then it's kind of a disincentive to go through the process of getting a permit for every single crossing. I like to have that noted, that this is although the total conceptual cost is not defined, I think it's something that ought to be highly considered.
You're gonna put ways on the border crossings. I think it's gonna be a factor. It's gonna affect almost immediately once it, especially on northbound.
Okay. And then we get into the new international bridge 4-5 in South Laredo. And here we have the numbers. I guess the model demand results based on the commercial vehicles. And these are the projections that we have. We don't have that much information on the base case, I mean the existing, because it's just a new location, but it's comparing both Colombia and World Trade. Do you have any questions on this one? And then we have the option, we did two options. We have the new bridge with the inner loop, which we call the inner loop, and then the new bridge to the outer loop. And in the ranking, because of the outer loop cost, we have the inner loop, the option Q as the preferable, I guess, higher than the other one. But this, based on, just to talk about a little bit on Bridge 4-5, the part of the study was to look at the, like I said in the beginning, to look at the system, at the existing port of entries. The city instructed us to look at that, look at the numbers, and see if based on traffic projections, there was a need for another location. Based on the numbers, we're seeing that yes, we're gonna need another bridge, another crossing. This location was not chosen by SMB. This location has been in discussion I guess in our region for a long time. We went through the studies, we went through the border master plan, which is recommending on the south part, this location. TxDOT, they're working towards, identifying a location. So we're just taking what we have, what we don't, and we run the alternatives, and we're giving you the results.
What other sites were taken in consideration besides these ones?
As part of our study, we were not supposed to look at any
Take in
sites.
consideration this one?
Yes, just this one.
You didn't analyze another possibility?
No, we didn't analyze it.
But you look at the bridges like for example, Bridge 2. Bridge 1 was constructed in the 50s, but Bridge 2, that it hits at 35. Colombia, it hits the Camino Colombia. You have World Trade hits Loop 20. Did you consider something like that, that it hits a main artery?
We didn't, well, again, based on the studies that they have, like the outer loop feasibility study done by TxDOT about a year ago, they have it in the south. They're going from the inside, outer loop is getting congested, TxDOT is planning, and they're moving to the outside, 5 miles east of the existing loop. And they're gonna connect all the way to 55, to Colombia, to that water. So we're looking at
33 miles, yes.
From the planning standpoint, we're looking at, okay, what do we have? This is the location being identified. Okay, let's take a look at this one here. We didn't look at anything on the north because there's nothing planned, and I guess that will have to be a different study. I mean, if the city wanted to do a study, a feasibility study, or to see where to put the bridge.
But you don't specify location, you just heard about the south, or you see
Hey,
south.
the south
and
is
you go
there.
south.
It's been in discussion here at the city council since 2008, like you mentioned, Mr. Richard, and it was mentioned in 2018. There are some discussions about, so we looked at all that history, and naturally that was an alternative that we needed to look for the city.
But then the study has to consider options to see what's more viable for the city, not just going with whatever he's talking about for so many years?
We did, that's what we did, because this is relieving, this is helping congestion. This is gonna help relieve the congestion that you have on the existing facility.
Because
Instead of comparing, sorry.
Go ahead.
So instead of comparing and looking for a site, you just went and scored a particular site that TxDOT is working on, and you chose that to check out the score and see how it scores, like positive, or kind of get the pros and cons of that area.
Yeah.
And TxDOT is together with this? Is it
TxDOT is doing
sign off on it or not?
I guess, let me clarify, TxDOT is doing their roadway. This was a study, from what I understand, the city and the county. Back then in 2008, there was a study done by the city and the county, and they said, you know what, this is a location that we can do here. That this is something that we can work with. Recently, I don't know, you've probably seen, this is something that Mexico is pushing, the federal government. They're saying, hey, we're gonna build something in the south. The state of Tamaulipas,
Time out.
That's why we took it, we looked at that.
Yo tenía una pregunta y una propuesta. Mi pregunta es, si verdaderamente tú consideras y qué elementos tienes para que este puente nuevo sea donde lo estás trazando en tu estudio. Y la propuesta, vuelvo a lo mismo. Perdón, pero ya me siento viejito a los 60 años. Entonces yo no creo que voy a ver vallecillos conectados con las 351 y la 50, pero me gustaría ver vallecillos conectados con la 35. Y si este puente fuera viable, pues me gustaría verlo conectado al 83, no hasta Houston. Entonces, que los hagas tramo por tramo para comparar los costos y los tiempos de entrega. ¿Sí? Y regreso a mi pregunta. ¿Cómo podemos asegurarnos que este es el mejor lugar? ¿Por qué no más al sur? ¿Por qué no más en medio? ¿Por qué no más al norte? ¿Cuáles serían las razones, las ventajas y las desventajas de este lugar específicamente?
¿Y por qué no un 5-6 también?
Ah, no, espérate, bro, pues primero el y luego el otro.
Digo, a lo mejor se necesita más de uno, ¿no? Eso es, digo, para eso son los estudios
Para eso se
también.
tendría que ser un estudio.
Claro.
Un estudio,
Y
que
revisar el
viera los
budget
dos
de la
lados,
ciudad,
que
¿no?
viera todo, un feasibility study completo.
And it has to include also the impact of what it's gonna do to the rooftops.
Yeah.
If you're, especially in South Laredo, and you certainly don't wanna run 1,000 trucks in the loop of what we have now. Because you'll have all the neighborhoods here complaining about that. But again, what is the alternative? I know that there's been studies that was brought up, 10, 15 years ago of having it in South Laredo. However, realistically, the infrastructure's not there. The infrastructure has moved North Laredo. There's a lot of investment in North Laredo. The acreage are costing anywhere between 250,000 to 320,000 an acre. That there's a lot of investment out there for those people that spent a lot of money. So what is the best alternative? To go and maybe put another bridge next to it, expanding the bridge, or coming in south? And what is south gonna do better? Because you gotta head north anyway. Where's the studies more? Are the numbers going through 35 and going up all the way up to Canada? Or are they going to Houston? Or they're not going to the valley? So, and the timing, it's, all those things really need to be studied.
And the other thing was the Colombia Bridge, was Carlos Salinas de Gortari was the one that put that location. And then the one we have right now, the World Trade Bridge, was Horacio Garza Garza. And according to Betty Flores, it's our turn to decide where that bridge should be, not Mexico.
Excuse me, apart from this project, from this location for the Bridge 4-5, do you know of any other location that can be a crossing site? Is there any other point that we know offer that has given to the city a study that somebody's raising the hand and say, here, you can cross over here?
We haven't heard anything, no hemos oído nada.
In the past years?
Nada.
There is no other option on the table.
No, de lo que yo sepa que he oído algún otro estudio que se haya hecho para considerar un cruce en el norte de Laredo, de verdad, no he oído nada.
O sea, es el único proyecto que se ha presentado, el Puente 4-5.
Exactamente.
Based on your information on the Bridge 4-5 that you've been working on, 2025 is not a realistic time frame. Maybe 2030 would be a better time frame, so we could change that up a little.
We were looking at, I guess, 2025, you're correct, because it takes some time, but kind of to start the planning process. What we're saying here is we need to start down. The city of Laredo needs to start, we need to start, planning to do something, because it takes some time. It takes, 9 to 10 years, it takes time.
Basically, on the location of the bridge, we have to make a decision, just consider one option and not having a study another option. Because your study doesn't consider any other option, or you didn't.
The study was not,
So we have to
we
take,
were not tasked.
on Friday, we have to take a decision in something that we don't have options, just what you present.
Chairperson, there's option R also we haven't looked at, right? Which is the Bridge 4-5 outer loop option, still in the south.
The location of the bridge is, it's the same,
It's
my
just
understanding.
with outer loop or with loop
Yeah.
20.
Can you confirm that?
Yeah, it's the same location.
But the infrastructure for the warehousing right now is in northwest and northeast. That's where the warehousing's at today. There's nothing there yet, with a lot of investment there.
Well, now, Chairman, motion to extend the meeting for.
Motion by, sorry, to extend a meeting, second by Mr. Jason.
Aye. All in favor?
Votes in favor? Give me a break. Votes in favor?
Aye.
Votes against? Motion carries. Extend the meeting 30 minutes. We can keep going.
Okay.
Sorry.
One of the options that you mentioned, and Chairperson asking you, you were tasked just to do the site, but you mentioned something earlier that you based some information on a previous BMT, somebody else's master plan as well?
There's a Texas-Mexico border master plan.
Correct.
That's a plan that is done under TxDOT They have a division and they did a plan. And there was a lot of, I went to some of the meetings, I saw some of you guys.
So I'm guessing that plan has more detailed information on.
That plan has a lot of
Broader.
information, a lot of stakeholders, it covers all of Texas, all these meetings, Laredo, Eagle Pass, I mean, it's a comprehensive study. And on that study, it's listed on the study.
Is there any other options listed or just this one listed?
It's just, the Bridge 45 in South Laredo is the only one, as a new bridge location.
Is there any reason for that? Is there any, like, why the Mines Road side and between the bridges, it was not considered that location?
Because it's saturated, maybe.
But if we are working on the Vallecillo and all the connectors to the 35, I mean, all the cargo is going north,
I think that it has to be both sides. I haven't heard anything, but maybe, the Mexican side, the state of Tamaulipas, and I guess in this case, the city of Laredo, they will have to have that conversation and see, okay, is there another location? Do we need to study? Do we need to do a study to see what's the best location? That may be something.
It is like Mr. Dominguez
But we
said,
don't-
Mexico is dictating where we have to put the bridge. Mexico is
Yes, but
dictating that.
that's where the conversation needs to come in, I guess.
What about the Achar Highway, the Achar Rusinger, it's not in your list?
Achar it's already part of the list, that's why it's not showing here. That's part of the 80 projects.
But
Future projects, Arturo, they're already included into the model. Any project within the next 4 years, everything along Loop 20, all the direct connectors, Vallecillo, Achar, there's gonna be some improvements on the Mines Road by TxDOT. All of those projects, any way in motion, Z portals, a lot of the ITS that is coming to the bridges, all of that information is already there.
already here?
Probably, one thing, if the spot is under discussion, why do we have this study and it only says that we have one spot? And reading like the findings, under Q it says that it is the best alternative based on evaluation criteria and ranking results, thus improving overall volume through output capacity of the entire city of Laredo Bridge System and will help the industrial, commercial, trade traffic circulation throughout the city, Texas, and Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas. So if we're like discussing the spot, the study clearly says that it is the best evaluation out there. So I don't know where are we discussing like different things, because the people who made the study, they know what they did and the findings are out there. So we need to take that into consideration and let everyone know.
Thank you. We need to move on. We have still 2 more comments. I don't know if you have any other questions so they can finish the presentation. Let's move on.
Thank you. Or do I continue with the presentation?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry.
Don't leave.
Continue, you're finished, continue.
Minutes.
Finish the comments.
The last one I have is just the timeline schedule of proposed improvements. In this, we kind of divided this in the short term, the midterm, and the long term. And like I said, the development of the criteria for the ranking and transportation project has allowed the city of Laredo to create a bridge master plan. This is like a guide for the city of Laredo. This is not, okay, you have to do this in this order. I know that we don't have the funds, some of these projects are not funded. So, but we try to, based on the results, we wanted to give the city a list. Okay, this is the priority. This is a guide for you guys. There's a lot of discussion that has to happen. Discussion with the Mexico counterparts, with TxDOT. I know they're very dynamic, but we made our best effort to give you a list based on the year when you can do it. That's kind of the approach that we took on this one. And that's what I have here. The rank list serves as a guideline to identify projects of importance within the Laredo from Colombia to I guess, to this new site, the Sol Laredo. And this time I will take more questions. We're here. I mean, we're here to answer any questions you may have. Anything that we need to do for Friday's meeting, will be.
Okay, proceed to the public comments and then keep
Yes.
going with questions, please.
Well,
Or do you wanna, do you have any?
I was
We don't have any
thinking that
public comment
maybe
for
we ought to
motion.
make a motion and put this for the workshop, the rest of it, and great presentation, thank you. I know it took a lot of time. We certainly don't want to kill the messenger. But I think it'd be best if we work it through the workshop and move on from there, because we could continue doing another 30 minutes and
Yeah.
another 30 minutes. and
So
another.
can you just answer the environmental part, well, that it's not here?
The environmental part does that part.
Has nothing to do with this?
No, that will be, no,
An additional
an additional
Study.
task. When we
Additional
do the
studies.
You're right, that this is, we have to do that check.
Hay buenas questions. Tengo curiosidad porque vi aquí en tu estudio un comentario que no está abundado. Dices que el Border Patrol se opone, pero no me dices la razón o no me dices por qué el Border Patrol se opone.
Any of the 4-5 outer loop or 4-5, just those two options, it says that CBP is against it.
The CBP, what we've
Ah,
been
well,
with
CBP.
CBP,
Okay.
they want to,
O la otra, 4-5, los dos el 4-5.
no están opuestos CBP. Ellos dicen, vamos a utilizar mejor Colombia y los que tenemos existentes. No están opuestos, pero cuando se haga el puente 4-5, que esté justificado, basado en un estudio. O sea, ellos no están, las discusiones que tuvimos con Mr. G. Crawford, he said, we're not opposed to it, but let's make sure that we utilize what we have first. And once we get to the capacity, the congestion, then we need to start looking at another location.
What is capacity, 80%, 90%, 100%?
Capacity is when you have those big lines in there, and then you're gonna have issues with crossing or waiting times and.
But they didn't say the
long lines.
percentage? They didn't say the percentage?
The percentage, we can ask Axel Friday. I'll ask Axel so that he can clarify on the percentage. But capacity is very important, and we have reached capacity. The traffic model is showing that we need to do, what the city needs to look at a location to help system.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gracias a ustedes.
If you don't mind, we can move with the public comments.
Yes.
Mr. Francisco Marquez. I would just ask you to stick to 3 minutes because we are running.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Francisco Márquez. Que quisiera aclarar tres cositas. El estudio que fue hecho en el 2008 sí escogió varias alternativas, no nomás fue el puente en el sur. A raíz de ese estudio se escogió el puente en el sur y por eso es el único que sí, hubo tres alternativas en ese estudio y por eso se escogió. De ahí viene toda esa historia.
¿Nos puedes regalar una copia del estudio?
¿O podríamos procesar así rápidamente en dónde estarían las otras dos?
No lo tengo así las coordenadas, pero era un sitio que estaba proponiendo el condado en ese momento y el otro la ciudad.
¿Tendrás una copia de ese estudio?
Híjole, o sea, lo hicieron aquí en la ciudad de
Laredo.
De Laredo.
Bueno, lo buscaríamos en el récord de la ciudad.
Hay un escrito donde el city manager, después del resultado de ese estudio, da de baja sus aplicaciones y explica ahí que por el input de un ingeniero independiente y basado en los comentarios de miembros de la comunidad, da de baja ese sitio y informa al Departamento de Estado.
2008, ¿verdad?
Fue 2008, 2009, no me acuerdo exactamente, pero la carta sí tengo una copia, entonces se los puedo proporcionar. El otro comentario es algunas de las comentarios que hicieron en cuanto a los estudios. A la fecha se han hecho 4 estudios de miembros independientes. Uno que tiene mucha relevancia es el del 2012, que fue hecho por el TTI, Texas Transportation Institute, que depende de la Universidad de Texas en Austin. Y lo que hicieron ahí fue que quitaron todos los stakeholders que podían votar, le quitaron toda la cuestión política de esos estudios y únicamente las agencias federales pudieron votar. Y en ese estudio el puente en el sur salió el número 1. Se gastó, fue un estudio de casi un año y se gastó, creo que fue $1 millón en ese tiempo. En el 2021 el Texas Department of Transportation hizo la actualización de ese Border Master Plan. Fue un estudio de dos años. Las personas que llevaron a cabo ese estudio pues, realmente son expertas en temas de economía, ingenieros de transporte, en cuestiones de medio ambiente. Y en ese estudio salió otra vez el puente en el sur como en las más altas calificaciones para hacerse y realizarse en el corto plazo y que iba a tener un alto impacto. Es por eso el historial que se ha considerado.
No te me vayas. Mira, voy a aprovechar que estás ahí un poquito, nada más. Y a lo mejor es un poco absurda mi pregunta, ¿verdad? Pero sí me gustaría también tener la tranquilidad de que estamos respetando el medio ambiente, dado que está aquí Melissa Cigarroa y Tricia Cortés. Saluditos. ¿Tenemos algún estudio de impacto ambiental, tanto en esta parte del sur de la ciudad, como podría ser en Walter Bridge, en comparación con el Walter Bridge, con el puente mundial? Estos estudios ambientales no se han hecho, no los tenemos.
Yo no voy a hablar del Walter Bridge porque yo no he participado en nada, pero seguramente se hizo en el 2000 algún estudio. Pero hay otro estudio que se hizo por el TTI, que depende de la Universidad de Texas A&M, donde marca claramente, hizo ellos un estudio que duró aproximadamente 3 meses. Le pusieron aproximadamente una flotilla de 200 camiones, lectores de smog, y estuvieron leyendo todo el recorrido que hacían esos camiones por ese tiempo, y lo compilaron en un estudio de 24 horas. Se hicieron una simulación. En esa simulación mostraban cuáles eran el impacto que tenían todos esos camiones, cómo iba pasando las horas del día. Y claramente muestra que en el puente de comercio mundial, alrededor de las 12 de la tarde hasta como a las 6, ya los niveles de contaminación en todo lo que es el área de las minas, ya no son niveles aceptables de aire para el consumo humano. Ese es el que conozco. Ahora, en lo que es referente al puente 4.5, sí ya se tiene una factibilidad ambiental. Fue hecho por una empresa Cali Mayor, la tenemos, se lo podemos compartir. Y claramente dice que el proyecto es ambientalmente factible.
Perdona que sea tan encajoso, pero comprende que el comité lleva menos de un mes de haberse formado y estamos documentándonos. Ustedes tu grupo tiene un estudio aparte a este master plan y nos ayudaría mucho que pudiéramos tener acceso a él o una copia.
Es que son varios. En realidad, para realizar un puente internacional son una serie de estudios que se tienen que realizar tanto del lado mexicano como del lado americano. Todos esos estudios van encaminados a ver la factibilidad financiera y la factibilidad de medio ambiente y la factibilidad que funcione, es decir, que vaya a tener tráfico y que vaya a servir a la comunidad. Todos ellos tienen lo que le llaman un ACB, un análisis costo-beneficio. La unidad de inversión de la Secretaría de Hacienda, si tú no demuestras que tu proyecto tiene un retorno hacia la comunidad, no te lo va a autorizar. Nosotros ya lo tenemos todo eso. Tenemos estudios hidráulicos, topográficos, mecánica de suelos, ya tenemos un diseño de puente, tenemos algunos, la factibilidad ambiental ya la tenemos en México, eso es lo que les puedo decir.
Una pregunta. Una más, mira,
recuerdo que tenemos 3 minutos y ya se nos va a acabar.
Conozco aquí a mis compañeros y creo que ustedes nos llevan muchos años de estudios, y para nosotros emitir una recomendación sería muy irresponsable que con el poco tiempo que tengamos formarnos esta opinión. Cuando menos yo sí me gustaría acceder a tu información para hacer una opinión responsable. Gracias.
Con gusto. Toda esta información al comité que se formó para la evaluación del Border Master Plan que hizo el Departamento de Texas, hizo mandó puso unos comentarios públicos en los cuales tú tenías que hablar de tu proyecto, tenías que formar tu caso. De parte de nosotros se hizo y fue evaluado. 9 distintos goals que tenía ese Border Master Plan, y uno de ellos era el de medio ambiente. Fue evaluado también ahí. Se evaluaron muchas cosas. Es que esto de un puente internacional, la verdad, no es únicamente el tráfico, tal vez sea lo más importante, pero también tiene muchas aristas, lo que es el desarrollo económico, cómo vamos a liberar de tráfico otras áreas, el impacto que vamos a tener, el costo en sí que tiene. En fin, son innumerables número de cosas que se tienen que considerar, y la verdad nosotros ya lo tenemos todo eso.
Okay. Les pido que sean nada más cortos, por favor.
Porque sí vi que en la Junta del Cabildo preguntaste del costo-beneficio de los proyectos que se están haciendo ¿cómo se llama? En el Puente Mundial, y se lo voy a entregar a la Councilwoman Vanessa Pérez. Y sí, es de Texas A&M Transportation Institution, para que hagan un costo-beneficio de los proyectos que se van a hacer, porque yo creo que sí es importante saber qué tanto beneficio es, porque pues bueno, tenemos que entender que el dinero lo tenemos que estirar lo más que se puede.
¿No? Yo soy el primero que está a favor de todo eso.
Pero sí son importantes los costos-beneficios. Vi que esa fue una de tus preguntas cuando volviste a estar en el podio.
Mr. Teach, rápidamente ya para pasar al siguiente.
Nada más, en el tema de la geolocalización, Francisco, no sé si puedes poner en resumen cómo es que se hizo el estudio, cómo se determina en pocos puntos, decir, cuando llegaron a eso, cómo se determina la geolocalización del puente y los accesos, entradas y salidas para planear y poner y haber decidido que el punto es el punto óptimo para realizarlo.
Bueno, en este andar que hemos tenido en esto de los puentes internacionales, a ustedes les va a sonar un poquito raro lo que les voy a decir, pero lo más importante es tener el derecho de vía. Es un problema. Hay proyectos en la frontera México-Estados Unidos que no se han podido completar por el derecho de vía. Tenemos el puente de Otay Mesa, el 2. Fue una inversión extraordinaria de Estados Unidos, casi $1 billón. O sea, acercaron todas las autopistas al puente, y resulta que del lado americano no se tiene el derecho de vía. Hay paracaidistas ahí, tienen un problema muy serio. Entonces,
bueno, ahí no hay puente, ¿eh?
¿Perdón?
Ahí no hay puente, ¿no? ¿En Otay? Sí,
claro. Sí, claro. Entonces, eso es lo primordial, tener el derecho de vía. Lo segundo es, pues obviamente los costos. En el área en el sur donde nosotros estamos, la geografía es muy benévola.
Disculpe que lo interrumpe. ¿Puede remitir todos esos puntos para poder escuchar también el siguiente comentario? Porque estamos a 5 minutos de terminar la junta y me interesa. Sí, lo que pasa es que lo pediste que nos lo proporcionara.
Que nos lo resumiera y que nos lo dijera.
Sí,
igual,
lo puedes
no, pero es que lo termine de explicar, y igual si nos lo manda por escrito lo tenemos todavía mejor, ¿verdad? Pero nada más que termine de explicar cómo fue el proceso de determinarlo y llegó. O sea, ya explicó que es el derecho de vía. Ya nos quedamos.
La factibilidad, otro costo muy importante, pues es obviamente la infraestructura del puente. En el sur, y los que conocen un poquito de la historia de los puentes, antes el puente de Colombia y el puente del comercio mundial se iban a hacer al sur, no se iban a hacer al norte. Por alguna razón se hicieron en el norte, pero en el sur, en esa parte donde estamos, es una cañada. Entonces la longitud del puente es muy corta. En otros lados de la frontera, y que es parte de los puntos que se evaluaron para determinar un punto de cruce, el área de inundación está muy adentro de las ciudades. Entonces eso te obliga a tener un puente larguísimo y es muy costoso. Entonces esos fueron principalmente las 2 razones por las cuales ese punto se escogió.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Tenemos al señor, we have a Mr. Glafiro Montemayor for public comments. Okay.
Motion
Any-
to extend the meeting for 30 minutes?
Motion by Mr. Richard to extend the meeting, second by Mr. T.
I-
Votes in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion to take a
Again.
bathroom
Break?
break, yes, to go to the
Okay,
restroom.
we are gonna take a 5-minute break.
break.
Again for the extension, eh?
Okay, hold on, let me take, votes in favor to extend the meeting 30 minutes?
Aye.
Votes against? Motion carries. We are taking a break, 10 minutes? 5 minutes?
No sé qué tal.
We are calling the meeting again in order again, please. We have two more public comments. Mr. Jerry Schrebel.
No more station, ¿verdad? No more station.
Madam Chairman, for the record again, members of the committee, my name is Jerry Schwebel. Again, I'm coming before you because I took to heart very much Mr. Cigarro's comments, and I agree with him wholeheartedly that all of these decisions need to be informed decisions. And again, I offer myself as a resource on behalf of the Board of Trade Advisory Committee. So just as a matter of background, let me share with you that who the BTAC is, the Board of Trade Advisory Committee, has been referred to by the two prior speakers. The Board of Trade Advisory Committee is a committee of border, private sector, public sector individuals that are appointed by the governor of Texas to work with the Secretary of State of Texas, who is the foreign relations person for the state of Texas, Secretary of State. And this last Secretary of State was Ruth Hughes. And together with TxDOT, we were tasked, again, by the governor to come up with this Texas-Mexico Transportation Border Master Plan. It was the first plan that included not only Texas representation, but also Mexico representation, including the states of Chihuahua, Coahuila, Nuevo León, and Tamaulipas. And as I said before, I said we have 28 ports of entry along the border. So the focus was on infrastructure, but it also focused on processes. So this was a 2-year project that was concluded in March of this year, that was approved by the Texas Transportation Committee, that has been presented to the governor of the state of Texas as a master plan of those projects. And one of the reasons behind it is because what happens from time to time, you know, and obviously there's changes of government within municipalities along the border, but this became the framework of identifying, which now equals over approximately 600 projects totaling almost $35 billion. So Laredo was included in that. Many of the projects that are referred in the study that was referred to right now came out of this 600-page report. I think yours was 400 pages. This one was 600 pages, and it took 2 years. And the series of consultants included various universities, various private sector consultants, a very comprehensive and in-depth study. So the projects that are identified here, as you all are discussing, are very specific and are comprehensive. In fact, you know, Sharon, you were part of that committee, you were involved in that. So for those that perhaps are not familiar with it, there was tremendous stakeholder engagement. At the local level, we had meetings in Laredo, Texas. We had meetings in Brownsville. We had meetings in all up and down the border from El Paso. So over 2,500 individuals participated as stakeholders. Every major organization along in the state of Texas involved in international trade, I would say, was involved in it. I committed 2 years of my life to it. And I saw much input from many of you all in the trade community. I'm excited about this particular committee because, quite frankly, you know, I've been a strong advocate for having you all engaged. Because we need to, you know, make sure that we have the right input in these projects. So again, I'm here as a resource to answer any questions you may have about what projects are included in there, and primarily I want you to focus on the high impact short term. Those are the needs right now. And as I stated at City Council meeting on Monday, I believe we we need to act now, we need to move swiftly, and we need to move prudently. We cannot delay it. And those that may not be as informed as others, I welcome the opportunity to meet with them and share any information or answer any questions they may have. But quite frankly, the plan has been completed, okay? So the question is, how do we move forward in the implementation side? How do we make sure that what was presented is implemented? And that will require consultation with our legislators so that the right budgets are allocated and the funding that is identified here that's needed, it goes through TxDOT, through, of course, appropriations by the state legislature, and everybody agrees and buys into it. This is not going to be a time to question anymore the projects that are in here, quite frankly. I have to be very blunt about it. You can opine and you can state your own opinion, but the facts are being presented, and that's why it took 2 years. And what we're seeking is to inform the city councils, the county commissioners, which they already have, and all the stakeholders that participated in this, which, as I said, were very numerous, several meetings, several workshops, here and other parts of the border. So now, if there's a concern or a question, I think it's prudent to have that discussion. But the fact is clear that the agreement has been concluded, and whatever proposed changes or differences of the plan is not something that is going to change the whole plan, or not. It may delay a legislator saying, well, if the communities are not united, then we will probably, move on to the next project. So I just want to advise this committee in your review, in your prudent review, that you take into consideration what the chronology and what the steps will be from this point on. And as I said, I'm here as a resource to help and answer any questions, including I'm sure there have to be questions from those that perhaps have not participated in the process, because I believe, as someone who's been involved in this, that this will have a tremendous positive impact to the economic development of our region.
Jerry,
Any questions?
if I may?
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm sorry if I may. I'm glad, and I know that you, for many years, and there has been studies. The issue is, I think today, is that we've only formed 30 days ago. And if we could get access to the information, and you're right, we need to act swift, we need to move forward, because those monies could be appropriated somewhere else where there is fundings right now, because there's a lot of funds out there. Sure. But we just don't have that information to make a
I will tell you
decision.
that very good question, very good question. But I think the report is, by the way, this report is on the website of TxDOT. You can pull up the 600-page report if you wish and print it yourself and read it, okay? I believe maybe their report is also, I don't know what point it may be released for the public as well. But I also will let you know that on Monday, I presented an executive summary of that. And if you give me your card, I'll be glad to email you that executive summary, because I don't know if
30 days.
I know that my computer's a little bit slow in sending a 600-page file, and I don't know how the computer on the other side is going to be. But there's never been an issue of trying to keep anything from anyone. The challenge is, quite frankly, that many of you are just becoming engaged right now, and I understand that. Yeah. But like I said, I hope that you would consider the fact that others that have been engaged on it for a lot longer, and that proper consideration given to those individuals that did work on it.
Jerry, just to add as well, you brought up some good points, and thank you. And you always provide a good resource of information for all of us that we go out there, especially just traveling up to DC to give that information to our legislators. Like I stated now, there are funds available, and they are moving forward with this. But we got to work together, like you said. We can't throw dirt on the other project. We have to make sure all projects are moving forward, because if we move forward with all our projects, they're going to pick one or two, and we can make our community look like we're united. Because when we go up there, it seems like that's our biggest thing. You guys aren't working together. You guys are generating so much money at the bridges, but you guys aren't working on the funding available as well that you guys have available, to provide. So you made some good points. Congratulations. Thank you for the information you gave us.
Well, thank you, Mr. Rosales, because that is our genuine intent. We want for our region to prosper in a prudent, planned, proper way for all of our citizens and for the welfare of our citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Any questions?
We'll be
Any
waiting
other
for the
questions?
email.
Pardon me?
We'll be waiting for the email.
I don't usually call. Give me your card, I'll be glad to give
Okay,
it to you.
any other question for Mr. Schwabel? Nope. Okay. Mr. Eduardo Garza, next and last public comment.
Buenas noches, voy a ser breve, ya es tarde. Yo vengo en calidad como empresario, como agente aduanal, como agente de comercio internacional y mi preocupación, obviamente, por las inversiones que tiene uno y a la vez tanta gente que tenemos en la parte de acá natural de las minas, pues me preocupa la ubicación. Yo, la verdad, y con todo respeto, hay gente interesada y que de alguna manera son inversiones importantes. Entiendo y comprendo la importancia de la conectividad en un comercio, en un área de comercio internacional que es tan importante. Pero la verdad hay un sentido común y hay una ubicación lógica que da donde estamos todos, donde existen millones y millones de inversiones y que seguimos invirtiendo. Cuando se creó Colombia, hace 30 años, y que se creó hacia el norte, 17 millas, que ahorita analizando, pues son pocos, es algo corto. Irnos ahorita a 40 millas, si estamos diferenciando que el transfer nos cuesta $20, la diferencia entre uno y otro, y decimos, oye, esto nos saca de competitividad, no vamos a ir a 40 millas, ¿cuánto vamos a pagar? No $20 de más. Entonces, yo vengo aquí por un interés propio. Yo tengo bodegas, tengo inversiones, estoy haciendo más. Yo no me interesa irme para el sur. O sea, ¿qué voy a hacer con lo que tengo? Voy a crear un tráfico del sur hacia acá. Hay un sentido común en las cosas. O sea, ¿por qué esta es área? Porque hay interés. Interés no de uno, de muchas gentes. Si hacen una encuesta, yo creo que la gente va a decir, y con todo respeto a mis compañeros agentes nacionales, si la Asociación de Tecnólogos nos dice, hay 400, yo quisiera preguntar a los 400, ¿tienen interés de hacer inversiones nuevas al sur? Tengo dudas, y con todo respeto lo digo. Y vengo a expresar, y siempre he dicho, hay que dialogar, hay que hablar de frente, hay que decir las cosas como piensan, con respeto. Pero para mí, el interés general es más importante que los particulares. Gracias.
Gracias.
Chairman, motion to adjourn?
I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pue. Votes in favor? Votes against? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.